Okay, this is an extremely exciting find for us. We are on the site of Etna, the Turpentine Camp. It is the only Turpentine camp in the world that is on the National Register of Historic Places. We're on the epicenter of it, but it was very, very, very spread out. And of course, crews would have gone out into the woods, far, far flung from here, to get the sap from the trees to distill here in this area. But there would have been, at one point, this was established in the late 19th century up until it basically petered out in the early 20th century. It was rediscovered by survey crews in the 1990s. And the archaeologists came in after that, the state or whomever did the surveying came in and excavated, researched, examined, explored, found, discovered all sorts of things. They took over 200 and some odd artifacts out of here, and during the time between then and now, there's been myriad people come through here, and they have plundered what was, I guess not what was left, because I'm convinced there's still more things out here to find. But anytime it seems like someone finds something, they just pick it up and take it. So what we have left are a scattering of bricks, this incredible structure we're going to show you here in a few moments, and some piece of metal pieces here and there that the archaeologists or the plunderers didn't want. And so we're going to show you that in a moment, and we're only going to look at this part right here. This is what we're calling the kiln, this area here. And again, I think it's just an extraordinary structure. This is part of the distillation process, and just an incredible artifact, an incredible find, archaeological. And you can tell that the archaeologists have been out here and they're attempting to preserve it. I don't know what the plans are for it. I just wanted to see it and find it and be here. Turpentine camps were the lowest of the low in regards to labor. The people that would have gone out and actually done the actual labor in those days would have been either black men or convicts. Convicts for the obvious reason, black men because they were the only ones that would do the work at that time. This was not an easy gig. I mean, you're in Central Florida year-round. It's just, it would have been miserable out here. Staying in tents. I imagine the upper middle management would have been staying in cabins, and we don't know of any evidence of that. But it would have been just an enormously difficult life out here. It would not have been an easy gig by any stretch. So that gives you an idea of you know, just the difficulty of the labor. And we all know what it took to get the sap out of the trees. You went up to each individual tree, made slices in it, and what we call cat face. It would have looked like a cat face, and sap would have dribbled out of there. Eventually, you would have brought it. It would have dribbled into a cup, a can, and you would have brought it back to this site to have it distilled. Now, what we're looking at now, obviously these are pottery shards. I don't know what, this might just be some sort of a pipe. I don't know if these are indigenous to this site or if these came later. It's been 100 years, nearly 100 years since this site was abandoned, so we don't know what happened during that time. I don't see any brick lining this pit, but typically in turpentine camps we see these brick lined pits that served as vats for the distillation process. And I'm not sure if this was a precursor to the kiln, if they started this out and then they liked building it above ground a little bit better, or, and there's a brick right there. There's a couple of bricks down there, but we don't know if they came from this exact pit or not, or if they built this simultaneously. My guess is that they built it afterwards. They decided they liked this site, they wanted to build something more permanent. This is certainly unlike anything we've seen in these turpentine camps. We've seen stuff like this. I mean, this is extensive. Somebody did a lot of work, went through a lot of trouble to build this thing, and built it really, really well. We don't know how much bigger it would have been. I suspect not very much. The bricks on the center part are kind of even with the bricks on the outer parts, so there might not have been too many more courses there. But clearly there were more courses. It was higher than this, but we don't know how much higher. There aren't any extant known photographs of this site, or of this kiln. So again, there's so many unknowns about this, but another unknown that fascinates me is there has to be a cemetery. In 20-some years of being out here with over 200 people at any one time, which means there would have been a lot more people coming and going over the years that would have lived here. People died. They had to bury them somewhere. The nearest cemetery that we're aware of is, well, let's see, Stage Pond is some miles down the road. Manfield is further than that. Let's see, Homosassa Cemeteries, that's a good 10 miles or more from here. So my guess is, because of the Florida heat and because of the nature of the beast, that they would have just buried these people on site. I mean, these were convicts, these were people who were not upper echelon of society, who would not have had loved ones with substantial means, who would have been concerned about their remains, so that they would have the people that were in charge of these people who would have passed would have just buried them basically on site. So I imagine they designated a little field somewhere and they just started burying them. I mean, this was Florida. Bodies start to go bad right away, so they wouldn't have been able to preserve them and spend that kind of time to ship them anywhere of any length. So they would have just that would have been it. They would have gotten buried around here somewhere. So I'd like to find that somewhere. I'd like to I'm not going to. I mean, I don't have the wherewithal or means to do that, but I'd like to know that somewhere. I've seen some mounds. I've been out here exploring a little bit earlier, different areas, and I've seen some mounds. Who knows? Who knows, what they were. I doubt there'd be anything left. You'd have to have a basic idea of where you were going and get some GPS going. But anyway, that's it for this site. We're not going to film the entire thing. I mean, we don't even know where the entire thing is, but we know we're standing in the epicenter of it, and that there's a good bit of it around us. So we're going to go check that out, but we're not going to extend this video anymore. And this is just I don't know. This is astonishing. This is just absolutely, positively astonishing. Incredible sight.